Welcome to the Infidel, podcast of the damned, the weekly companion show of the Infidel News. Join us as we discuss this week's religious accounts from an atheist perspective. From Timbuktu to Toledo, from Kathmandu to Canada, from Bangalore to Bangladesh. We deplore, you deride. And here are your hosts, Dave and Nicole.
Hello and welcome to show number 19 of the Infidel Podcast of the Damned. I'm your host, J. David Core, atheist, author, and arcane artisan. And with me is my co-host, Nicole Simard. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, how are you? You're an atheist?
And an arcane artisan, apparently. Joining us today is the Atheism TV channel owner, ATV. Welcome, ATV.
Hello, hello.
Today is Wednesday, February 18th, 2015, and we're going to be discussing the upcoming episodes of the Infidel News, which will run beginning Monday, February 23rd, 2015. Show notes for all of our podcasts can be found at the infidelpodcast.blogspot.com. ATV is with us again today. As you can see, he's represented by just an avatar because he doesn't want us to see all the ash on his forehead.
Well, not only the ashes, the ash on his forehead, but also we want to keep our viewers.
That's right. Yes, don't want to scare them off.
Yep.
Yeah. Today is Ash Wednesday, one of the highest holidays in the Christian faith, especially the Catholic version of the faith. And I was raised Catholic, as was Nicole, and I assume ATV you were too,
yes,
right?
Yes,
okay.
I was too. Yes.
So we're all three lapsed Catholics. Something that I still do, and it pisses my family off, is like today we went out to eat, and I insisted that we go someplace where I could get fish. And the reason that I do that has nothing to do with religion. It's because I like fish, and you can get good, fresh fish. During
I
Lent.
never thought about that.
Yeah. So I insist we go someplace where I can get fish. And but I do try, even when I'm at home, I try to maintain just the tradition of it, just for its own sake, not because of any religious significance that I apply to it. And I forgot this morning, and I ate bacon. And then yeah, I know.
You're in big trouble.
That's big trouble, I know. And then we get to the restaurant, and I ordered tilapia with shrimp on it, and it was delicious. But she said, you get two sides. And I said, well, I don't really need any sides. I said, I'll have coleslaw, and do you have rice? And she says, well, we have red beans and rice. I said, okay, I'll take that. Well, do you know what the third ingredient is in red beans and rice?
Bacon?
Andouille sausage.
Sausage, okay.
So there you go. So there goes that. So screw that.
And do you respect also Fish Friday?
Yeah, I do. I do. I eat fish on Friday, or there's a church in town that makes fresh, homemade. All these old Slavic women make homemade pierogies.
Huh.
So we go and get homemade pierogies, and I don't know if you know what those are or not. It's like a Polish dumpling. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're delicious. Yeah. So yeah. So I enjoy Lent because of food.
Oh, I love pierogies with butter, onion, and bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love that. Love it like that.
Oh, I love it. I like it too. Yeah. I've got some. Last time I had some, they were cheddar jalapeno pierogies. They were amazing.
Yeah, I just heard about jalapeno. Like traditionally, you wouldn't put jalapeno in it, but I've heard of that recently, and so I'm gonna have to try that.
Yes, and I like to put real bacon bits and sour cream, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of butter.
Lots of butter. No, okay, I'll speak to you in a bit. I'm going to go and have some after-supper meal.
Munchies.
Yes.
Making me hungry.
Yes, that'll be good for my waistline. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
We're supposed to be about news, so let's start with our first story.
Sounds good.
Okie dokie.
Dire warning. It is forbidden to walk in our streets in immodest dress, including slutty clothing worn in a religious style. A sign with this warning and other signs like it, which had adorned the streets of Beit Shemesh, an Israeli city 20 miles west of Jerusalem, contributed to an atmosphere of harassment for many of the community's women. Such was the determination of an Israeli court, according to Haaretz, an English-language news source which reports on news out of the Jewish nation-state. Haaretz also tells us that the community of Beit Shemesh must pay damages to the women who brought suit against the city, which did not place the signs but refused to order them taken down. The award of 60,000 shekels works out to be about the equivalent of $4,000 apiece for each of the 4 complainants. The women complained often to the city's mayor, Moshe Abutul, but were told to ignore the signs, according to Neely Phillip, one of the women involved in the lawsuit. This advice became impossible, however, after a young mother with child in hand was assaulted by a gang of Haredi men wielding sticks who determined the woman's skirt to be immodest.
That's crazy. Yeah. So they didn't like the way she was dressed, so they beat her with sticks, and the city was okay with that because they didn't want to take down their signs.
That's awful. That's awful. And that, you know what that reminds me of? Not too long ago, like a few months back, there was this group of vigilantes who would go up and down the streets of I forget which city in England, in the UK, and they had signs on everywhere saying Sharia controlled zone, and they would enforce, no alcohol, and they would tell they would harass women if they were not dressed properly, and they got arrested eventually. But this is what religion does, eh? It's they try to push everything on everything that they believe on everybody by force, and that's not good.
Yeah, that's like the Puritans and the pillories that we used to have, in the continents. Well, before England and France actually came and started actually setting up governments, and it was just pilgrims coming to get away from religious oppression. That was what they came for, was to be oppressive in their own way, that they weren't allowed to do back at home.
Actually, what you just said only applies to England. It doesn't apply to France. France only sent one kind of person over to Canada. They sent good Catholic boys and girls. Actually, no, not even girls. Girls, they were ex-convicts.
Right.
They are known as les filles du roi.
Les filles du roi, yeah, the daughters of the king, yeah.
And the thing is, but the only kind of men who made it to North America were good Catholic boys. They wanted it to be some kind of idyllic country.
Yes, and it was, except for people dying in the winter and everything, but...
Yeah, well, Spain came over to, their big thing was conquering South America and converting them to Catholicism too.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a little bit more brutal than the French, I think, weren't they?
Oh yeah, because the French were not brutal at all with the Indians. They were they had a very, very good relationship with the Indians. Actually, such good relationship, for example, in what we call in Canada the Maritimes, just by the Atlantic Ocean. Yes. The Indians over there had their own, it's a word for a cow, because the French farmers had cows, obviously, and the Indians had never seen them, so they used to call them French moose. So they were French moose, and they were in very, very good. The relationship between Indians and French were very good.
So a brown cow would be a French moose chocolat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Now, excuse me while I go and groan for a bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know how many people were going to get that joke in the audience.
Moo.
Yeah, but anyway, so this thing with the signs and that sort of all gives credibility to the idea that the Fox was pushing about no-go zones, except that they were in Israel.
Yeah.
Right, they were right all along, except they had the wrong religion and the wrong country.
Exactly. Though we had done a story about that city last year. We did something about those signs. We had mentioned it. So, for our viewers who have been following us faithfully, it shouldn't be, 100% new story. It's partly new, as in they finally got their settlement. They finally got the judgment from the judge. So, but that's the only part of the story that's new.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money either. I mean, compared to what they would have gotten, what they would have gotten in the United States, that's nothing.
Exactly.
For the same settlement in the United States, they would have gotten like $1 million. They got $4,000 a piece.
Yep.
Yes.
And they have to pay their lawyer from that probably too.
Yep.
I think that as punishment, if I was the judge, I would have forced all these people to walk around in women's underwear up and down the street.
But who are you trying to punish, though? Because everybody else would have to see that.
I don't know. It would be, the public would have. I don't know how punished they would be. They would have quite a laugh.
Yeah. But I mean, over there it would be a shame parade. Over here it would be a gay parade, gay pride.
Yeah, it's a rainbow.
Yep. Shall we go on to the next story?
Yes.
With most of the world's religions, women do not enjoy the same prospects for leadership as men, although many claim that Tibetan Buddhism comes closer than most. Separate but equal might be a way to describe the system whereby male monks confer status to other males, and female nuns do the same for other females. The Dalai Lama is said to be supportive of women in leadership roles, but formal support for full ordination of women is not yet a reality, when, at a conference for Western Buddhists, he was moved to tears after hearing the plight of women in the West from the Venerable Thubten Chodron, a Buddhist nun, and others. His advice to them was not to count on immediate or direct support, but rather to persevere on their own and only come to him if they reached insurmountable obstacles. Treating this as the only permission she needed, Chodron took what was probably decent advice for everyone and did just that, forming a monastery on 240 acres of land near Newport and Spokane in Washington in 2003. It is still one of the only monasteries in the United States where women can work toward being fully ordained, and Chodron hopes to make this a reality soon. Now in her mid-60s, she is an accomplished writer, having published 10 books, one in conjunction with the Dalai Lama himself in 2014. The Dalai Lama's supportive words are featured on the monastery's website, saying, "I am happy to give Bhikshuni Thubten Chodron my support and encourage others who share this interest to do likewise." He has also expressed the possibility that the next Dalai Lama might be a woman.
Okay, now see that part of the story I don't understand, the idea that he thinks the next Dalai Lama might be a woman, because isn't the Dalai Lama supposed to be a reincarnation of the previous Lama?
Right. Yes. And but reincarnation meaning that maybe he's going to be reincarnated into a woman. You don't know that.
Right.
But I mean, you're right. I mean, there's a timing issue, I think.
Yeah. But okay. Historically, the Dalai Lama could have been reincarnated as a woman at any time. It's not as if reincarnation, which I mean is a nonsense anyway, but it's not as if it works like that. It's not as if you go, I'm coming back as a woman next time, for political expediency. It doesn't work that way. That doesn't make sense. So plus the way that they choose the Dalai Lama historically isn't even going to be possible anymore because of the Chinese.
That's that's the biggest problem I see in all this, because they've always been out of Tibet, even if there are Buddhists everywhere. But it's always been somebody out of Tibet, and now what are they going to do since they cannot go back to Tibet?
Right. So it seems to me like that unless they're just going to name somebody Dalai Lama now, that the whole everything, they're going to just have to redo the whole tradition, come up with a whole new way to do it and everything, because it's meaningless anyway. Who cares? But it's
well, you know the saying, if the Dalai Lama can't go to Tibet, we'll have to bring the Tibet to the Dalai Lama. Sorry.
Is that how the saying goes? I thought it was mountains and Muhammad.
Well, oh yeah, okay. I think you're right.
But maybe they've changed that too.
Well, it's always a matter of expediency. Whatever is more convenient.
Yeah, well, I think what happens is that the Dalai Lama is jealous of the progress that's been done in the the rest of the world. Like now they have a black president. And they have like women leading countries everywhere, and the world is changing, and he knows it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's been pretty good about it, really.
Yes.
I mean, as far as amongst the world's religious leaders, he's one of the ones that I met the Dalai Lama, and
You did?
he told me that on my deathbed. No, that's a line from Caddyshack.
Oh, okay. I said, "Oh, you met the Dalai Lama." Well, the closest I've gone to is a lama, but.
Oh, you met a lama.
Yeah, I met
her
a
name
lama.
And her name was Dolly.
Nah, you met the Dalai Lama, and he said, "Get out of my way."
No, there's a Bill Murray in Caddyshack. There's a famous line where he says he met the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama told him that on his deathbed he would have absolute clarity. So I got that going for me.
But
people respect that. People seem to respect this Dalai Lama as if he's to me he's just a Deepak Chopra wannabe.
Yeah, Deepak Chopra meets the Pope or something.
Yeah.
Current Pope. Yeah.
That's what he is. He's like, if Deepak Chopra and Pope Francis had a baby,
it would be a girl. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it would be a girl. That's right.
But at least it's they've they are trying to. They're a bit ahead of the Catholic Church there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on that.
They're way ahead of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church puts puts down the nuns on the bus every chance they get.
Yep.
And they're not even nearly as far advanced as a monastery full of nuns ordaining themselves.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and that nun there, that Buddhist nun, has written a book with the Lama. They cooperated together on a book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes.
So the Pope has yet to do something like that.
This Pope, he it's funny, this current Pope, he does like 2 steps forward and then 1 step back.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He's
dancing the cha-cha.
Yeah. Dancing the cha-cha. Yeah. He'll do some things that are like pro gay, but then he'll go somewhere else and he'll call gay marriage one of the biggest problems that we face.
Right. Yeah. Recently, he was saying that families who don't have children are selfish or something along those lines. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's maybe families that don't have that control the number of children that they have. Maybe that goes against the Catholic doctrine, but one of the biggest user of contraceptives is the Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, you know, as you said, you know, he said on one hand he said, you know, that couples who don't have children are selfish, and then on the other hand he said that families who have too many children, you know, are not doing it right. That being a good Catholic doesn't mean you're going to have 100 children.
Mm-hmm.
But on Patheos, I saw today there was an article about how the Catholic Church is treating transgender people.
Oh,
Meanwhile, the Pope himself has led a totally different way by
he met
getting
with
in touch. He met with a transgender man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes.
Yeah.
And
so, but so people who watch our show next week will get all the details.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this Pope. You know.
Yeah.
Sometimes what he says is very refreshing. Other times is very conservative, and you know, I think that just like the Dalai Lama, it's very the message that these leaders are projecting is very important. Is very important. It's very, very important. So you maybe the religion could be retarded, but maybe their message could be very progressive, and I appreciate that. That's not gonna turn me into a Catholic or a Buddhist, but at least, you know, it's gearing the ship in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about religion is there's two different aspects to it. There's the dogma, and then there's the social aspect of it. And the social aspect of it doesn't have to be anything. It doesn't have to be anything bad. It usually ends up being, but it doesn't have to be. So a lot of anti-theists, to me, like they come out and they're like all anti-religion because of all the social things, blah 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 blah.
Right.
If you know, it's one thing to be, you know, opposed to any ideology, but I don't like religion because the dogma is silly. Just it's all, you know, it's always there's no good dogma. There's no such thing as good dogma. So, but there's more and less harmful dogma, and there's more and less harmful social aspects to the religion. So, if you can look at those two things as separate things, you know, then you can maybe approach a religion and try to get more people funneled into a good religion as far as like the social aspects of it.
Do you want a good dogma joke?
Yeah, go ahead.
Your dogma is so big, it's Islam.
What? I don't get it.
No, it's your mother. Your mother's so. Never mind.
I was thinking it was a dog joke. I was trying to figure out how a dog worked into that. But.
Well, yeah, it could have been the mother of a dog. Yes, that could have been like that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the third story.
Norse mythology has remained an active part of modern Scandinavian imagination, even though Christianity prevailed as the primary religious belief around 1,000 years ago. That may be about to change to some degree as a group of people in Iceland seek to revive the formal pagan worship services there. The collective, known as Asatruarfelagid, is building a temple to the gods of old, and the Reykjavik City Council has even donated land for the project, but the group estimates that around $1 million will be needed for construction costs. The Asatruarfelagid collective was formed in 1972, and interest has been growing ever since. According to its website, the group professes values based on tolerance, honesty, honor, and respect for ancient cultural heritage and nature. It also claims that each person is responsible for themselves and their actions. It's made quite clear that they welcome people from other countries who wish to visit, but in the only part written in English, the site also offers this advice to foreigners who might come. We always welcome visitors from abroad as well as Icelanders with an interest in our cultural heritage and spiritual traditions. We respect everyone's interest in the Asatruarfelagid and our religious traditions, but we do not necessarily agree with every visitor's idea of the form that the Asatru should have in our modern world. Visitors should not assume that we automatically agree with or endorse their own views and practices. Hilmar Orn Hilmarsson, who serves as the collective's high priest, told Reuters, "We see these stories as poetic metaphors and a manifestation of forces of nature and human psychology." He also stated that the group did not promote an actual belief in the existence of these mythical beings, but instead wants to preserve the ideals that they represented. The temple is expected to accommodate 250 worshippers, but the group claims more than 2,400 members, so we assume that worshippers will be advised to arrive early if they wish to get in.
Okay, so this is just neo-paganism with a Norse tilt, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's just one thing I find and that's why I picked that story. Is one thing I find very strange about it. It's a religion without a god.
Right. Well, I mean, but are they going? But all neo-paganism is really religion without a god. They talk about the goddess, and they talk, or they focus on certain, like there's Celtic and there's well, there's Celtic and Norse and Egyptian, and there's all these different versions of paganism, and it's all really the same religion. They just use the traditions of the ancients in their rituals. It's just where they get ritual from.
Yeah, they're all different kinds of polytheism, basically.
But
Right,
that's
and
not
it's
even
really all-
polytheism because there's no god whatsoever. He said those
Right.
gods are just, poetic creations. They don't look at them as being real gods, so it can't be polytheism.
Right. It's pantheism is what it is. It's pantheism dressed up. But that's what LaVeyan Satanism is too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I was talking about more generally of Norse and Egyptian and so on.
Right.
So
Yeah. But it's just their way. It's all metaphorical to them, anyway. And some of them, some of the people who practice some of the different pagan religions, as I understand it, they do have the rituals, and they do have holidays, and they do that stuff, and they do talk about the goddess, but the goddess is an archetype and not an actual entity. So, right? Isn't that right?
Well, we'd have to ask them.
yeah.
Well, that's what we were going to do on Halloween, but we didn't get a chance to. we had a pagan scheduled to be on the show for the Halloween show, but she had technical problems and couldn't get on. But she's promised to be on again sometime, so we'll talk. We'll ask her then. We'll talk with her. But
This story makes me think of there's this in California. I don't know exactly where in California. There's this temple to Isis, and when I say Isis, I'm not talking about the Muslim terrorists. I'm talking about the Egyptian god. So, and there's this guy on YouTube, and I'm a subscriber to his channel. He is quite an interesting fellow. He's always has a lot of stories to tell, and he doesn't like atheists. He doesn't like them at all. Like he's under the impression that atheists they're fighting to close down all religions, including his, and he doesn't like that at all. And he's trying to rally other theists from any religion that he can get to listen to him. To fight atheism, but of course everybody's laughing at him, like of other religions, so he's never gonna have any traction. But this guy he's a priest in the temple of Isis. It's really unbelievable.
yeah,
The amount of crazy out there.
yeah. Yeah. The thing that cracks me up about this story is that they're building a Norse temple in 2014,
Right.
which
2015.
Or 2015. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, 2015, and it's not really. It's government supported in a sense, because the government gave them land. and it's all metaphorical. It's not a real religion. But this is the kind of thing that the Christian church would have, like, they would have destroyed this thing. You know, when they first start that they that and they were as jackbooted as modern Islam is now, 1,000 years ago when this last temple was taken down.
Right.
So you know, the only thing that it's actually secularism that's allowing for this church to be built in the first place.
Yes, that's a lot, and people don't understand that when atheists are fighting for their rights, it's not just good for atheists; it's good for all minority religions. Okay,
Yeah.
because everybody's uh, everybody's rights for believing whatever they want should be respected, not just one religion or not just atheists, but everybody. So, and they don't see that, of course, because whenever there's a majority, there's automatically the tyranny of the majority.
Right. And the Enlightenment thinkers who like founded the United States understood that. And even the religious members of the founding fathers in the United States understood that they needed that separation. Ronald Reagan understood it. But it's like, oh, it's lost. I don't know how it got lost.
Yeah. It gets lost because people don't learn history. They keep repeating the same mistakes, and of course, when you have a big gang getting together, you automatically have, like I said, the tyranny of the majority. People have this sentiment of being attacked whenever you're not in their clan.
Right.
Just for not being in the clan, you're automatically guilty of attacking them. So that's that.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of that, though. There's a little bit of in atheism. There is a little bit of, and it's usually young atheists who, when they are first coming to atheism, and they still have a lot of leftover anger from things, and so they do get they can be a little bit belligerent, a little bit in your face, and since there's no ideology that we all follow, nobody can really point and say, you know, it's this in atheism. But there is a little bit of that in the community. So maybe we need to change up the community. Maybe we need to change up the community. What do you think, ATV?
The community will be as it will be. There's nothing much we can do. The only thing we can do is concentrate on specific causes that we are willing to work together towards, and hope that we could make progress that way. I think. You know, there's so much infighting going on, and I don't think there's nothing we can really do to fix that permanently.
Come on, we are a community where we all do the same thing. We all believe the same thing.
So, by the way, this guy who I was talking about, this crazy guy who's a priest in the temple of Isis in California. His YouTube name is Twombonu, and that's spelled Twombonu. And then his last video, the title is, in all capitals, "The Atheist Psychopath, Deranged and Nasty." And that's a really funny video.
Is that you said TWOMBNU?
BONU.
Okay. What does that mean? Do we know what that means?
Twombonu?
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's got to be something in ancient Egyptian.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll have to look him up and link to him in the show notes so people can get an idea.
Super.
Yeah. But you had something that you thought would help the atheist community, didn't you?
Oh, yes. So if we're ready to change the topic.
Yeah, let's go.
I had this idea in the back of my head. You see, I am a very sarcastic individual. So
No.
Was that sarcasm,
Yeah.
Nicole?
No.
I think that was sarcasm. My spider sense was tingling. So no, so I've invented this thing which I call thankism. And what that is, I'm gonna read you a little bit of text here that I wrote, okay? So I think that would explain what thankism is. Thankism is a movement within atheism, where atheists ironically and exuberantly thank religion people for not following immoral or dubious parts of their holy texts.
Oh, I like that.
The objective is to generate cognitive dissonance in believers. This behavior can serve as an educational tool to show how immoral, backward, bigoted, and so on their holy texts can be, but it also highlights the fact that most religious people are better than their deities. Thankists can be overt or covert in their communications. For example, after a Muslim terrorist attack, the thankist can ironically thank other Muslims for not perpetrating the killing, disregarding the parts of the Quran that tell them to do so. Or a thankist can covertly thank liberal Catholics for being pro-choice, which in turn encourages more liberal Catholics to support a woman's choice. In either case, the thankist must cite the parts of the Quran or the Bible in order to provoke the cognitive dissonance. When believers cite their holy texts to counter those citations provided by the thankist, the appropriate thankist response is something along the lines of, I wish more people would think like you, but unfortunately some people interpret this text literally. Thanks for your progressive interpretation. Hopefully soon the whole Bible will be interpreted liberally like this.
But can we turn thankism into a religion?
We we could, but it's supposed to be
it would be hard to turn that into a religion. It's also going to be hard
ironic,
because
sarcastic.
Sarcastic. It's also difficult to because you have to know all the religious ideas and all the different religions in order to be able to pull it off. Like if I went into a haberdasher and it happened to be owned by a Jew and he sold me a hat that was silk and wool, I could thank him for ignoring Leviticus.
You're right.
But I have to know Leviticus in order to do that.
You do. Yes. So here's another one. Okay. Here's a concrete example. Okay. Thankists can hold signs that seem to thank the Westboro Baptist Church for their God hates fags signs by highlighting the fact that at least they didn't condone the killing of homosexuals. For example, thank you, Westboro Baptist Church, for not killing the gays, Leviticus 20:13. Here's another example. In response to the cartoonist insulting Islam, a Muslim might complain of injustice, to which the thankist could respond, thank you for protecting Allah from this blasphemy, because an all-powerful deity can't even defend himself against, drawings. After all, the Quran says that blasphemy is punishable by... the Quran doesn't say anything about this, but it should have.
It doesn't say anything about it? Really?
No. The Quran doesn't. You have some
hadiths?
Hadiths and so on that talk about examples of blasphemy, but that's a different story, and it's more something to do with apostasy than actual blasphemy against Allah. Anyway, to finish, the job of a thankist is not to have the final word, but to plant the seed of cognitive dissonance. Because of Poe's law, it may be hard for some atheists to understand why the thankist is thanking theists. So it's important to specify this somehow. A simple # thankism tag could be useful if it's not obvious enough. That's it. That's my idea.
Are you going to set up a web page for that?
I could. That would be a good idea. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I could make a video about it. That would be
Yeah.
pretty entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can spread
You
that
could
around
make it a
little bit.
weekly video.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for inviting me.
Oh, Nicole has one more thing he's got.
Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot.
Wants to put up our Christian glitches for the week.
Yeah, and I've got a doozy today.
Entire thing, but I believe that these Darwinists, these evolutionists, okay, are ultimately communists that want to strip us of our individuality, strip us of our beliefs and our faith in God, okay, and that's what Pastor Hovind has been fighting for many, many years, for decades now. Isn't that the truth? Now, of course, I believe that their scientific Darwinism is the same exact thing they're doing with this whole global warming thing. They get a bunch of scientists, they throw up some scientific papers and studies, and then they try to convince everyone that they should just give up their belief in God and the thought of creationism, and we should submit to their scientific so-called evidence. Isn't that true?
Well, you're absolutely right, and the whole thing goes all the way back. This is very, very Hitlerian.
Yes, sir.
Hitler made it very clear to the people he talked with and counseled with, only way to take Germany over and to take the world over was to convince them that there was no God. And so Hitler moved forward. We still have Hitlerian devices in our nation today. Mm-hmm. Some of you have your kids in kindergarten. That came from Hitler. And Hitler said, I'm going to prove to you the evolution, and that the Jews are stupid and the Jews are less than human, and therefore we're going to wipe them out. And so that's what they did. And they've been doing it ever since. In 1993 and 1994, Tom Fife, an American, reported that a lady from the Communist Party told her that the next man to take over America was already on the scene, and his name was Barack, and he was a black man. That's all documented. Mm-hmm. And so they've used evolution from the beginning of Hitler and his brown shirts and his kindergarten and his annihilation of the Jews to promote communism and to promote it by saying there is no God, therefore we have to create a system that will work. And of course, the system has worked, but it is falling apart because it is not based on God, based on Hitlerism. It's based on evolution, and that's what Kent Hovind has been fighting with the Bible in his hand all these years. Yep. And that's why he's so dangerous to this Hitlerian move that is about to try to take us over once again.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hovind.
Yeah.
Oh my
God. Yeah. He forgot all about those damn Volkswagens.
So I love this. I love this because you know why? Because as you know very well, all scientists that accept evolution are atheists that want to destroy religion, of course. And yes, for example, the person who came up with the theory of the Big Bang, which was a Christian, he's an atheist. And then the person who came up with the how do you say that? Looked at the whole DNA for humans. What does that? How do you say that? No, so there's a scientist who led a team to analyze the whole human DNA, the genome project. The genome, the head of the genome project. Yeah, he's an atheist, except he's a Christian. But yes.
Yeah.
And then of course there's a lots and lots of Christian atheists who want to destroy Christianity, of course.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, there were so many holes in his argument that it's not even, it was impossible to keep track of them. But like in the first place, Darwin, evolution is not called Darwinism, and evolutionism is not a thing. And the teaching that there's a superior, that survival of the fittest is not the same thing as killing off things that aren't fit. That's not what it is. There was just hole after hole after hole in everything that he said, that anybody who knows what they're talking about understands that. He's preaching to a certain intentionally ignorant group of people.
Right. Yeah.
But there's two things that amaze me. The most important one, though, that really I find incredible is that there's no logic to it, and yet they understand each other's illogic.
I know.
Like, there is no sense to the whole thing, to what they're saying. Like, you listen to the first guy and you go, like, how does one lead to the other? And then the second guy starts speaking, and he followed the whole thing, and to him it made sense. How can that be? I just, I can't imagine it.
And what's the problem
there's only what is their problem with kindergarten? I don't get it. But I just don't understand that. But the thing is that I see only one valid explanation for this, and that's they're brainwashed. They've been indoctrinated, and they're being trained to believe things without question. And that's the only explanation I can muster.
Yeah.
The second thing that amazes me is they managed to tie in the spaghetti logic with Kent Hovind being in jail.
Yeah.
How can...
Kent Hovind in jail because he's been trying to uncover all of this stuff. You know?
Yeah. Oh,
and Charles Manson's in jail for the same reason.
Okay, Kent Hovind is in jail because he has been defrauding the tax man. Okay, he's been keeping money for himself, money that he gathered, that he got through a capitalist venture, not from a church. Okay, and he didn't want to pay his taxes, and he also didn't want to pay some money to his employees. And the judge said, no, just pay up, and he refused.
Right. He's still.
That's
refusing.
why. Yes, he's still refusing.
And he's still trying to hide money too.
Yeah.
And
of
the
course,
thing is,
he's citing
today,
the Bible the whole time. So
yeah.
And today, like we're filming this on the 18th of February. Tomorrow on the 19th, he is going to court for a pre-trial because the thing is, as a conclusion of his first court case, the government seized and became owner of a lot of his property. And as the owner of the property, they sold it. Well, what did he do is he sent an owner's beware letter telling people, excuse me, but what is being sold to you is not for sale, and it cannot be sold. So what beware of buying all of this, because this is all illegal, and you could be in trouble. And so the government
doesn't have the right. The government doesn't have the right to seize my property and sell it to you, is what he's saying.
Yeah, and so he's done that, and the government is suing him because he has no right to do that.
Correct. But honestly, they shouldn't even have. They should just screw you. You're in jail. We're doing it. There should be no.
Well, now, but the thing is, because he's done that, he's facing even more jail time. He could end up, because of his age, he's like 62 or something like that. He could be spending the next 20 years in jail again.
Yeah. Now, okay. I think personally that his son is guilty of the exact same crime. By the way.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Because did you know that I think Nicole knows. I don't know if Dave knows, but did you know that Eric Hovind is the proud owner of a store?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
I think you mentioned that before.
Yes, okay,
yeah.
good. And so for the people listening to this, Kent Hovind is the owner of the store, and it's a non-profit store. Can you
It's
imagine?
Eric
It's
Owen,
called,
you mean, not Kent.
yeah, yes, you're right, Eric Oven. And it's called, by the way, it's called the Creation Store. It's not called the Creation Church. And they're in a shopping mall, and they're selling merchandise in the shopping mall, and also through their website. And but their quote profit is going into their 501c
C3. Yeah, C3.
501c3 with,
Yeah.
and they have the tax forms online. If you want to check it out, you can see that this guy has $2 million a year of sales.
Right. Well, that you can do that. You can have a store that's nonprofit, and all the profits go to charity. But you have to show how the profits are going to charity. You can't just say that that's where it's going. And if somebody challenges you on it, then you have to be able to prove that every dime of that profit either went back into the store or went to a charitable organization. And did something charitable. Because, for example, the Goodwill stores are a 501c3, and even though they're selling goods, it's all going into upkeep on their missions and stuff like that. Supposedly.
Yes, but in this case, the mission is
his pocket.
Eric Hovind.
Yeah.
Eric
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you can trace the money trail right back to his pocket and him buying a house and him buying a car and buying a plane and nothing else, then yeah, he can be in trouble for it. But those laws are all problematic anyway. It's hard to prove anything, because if he gives even a fraction of it to something that they can prove is charitable, like if he sends somebody on a mission with a fraction of the money, he can say that's what they did with their 501c3.
The thing is also, Kent's fiscal troubles started around 96,
Yes.
and a few years later, before he ended up, in court, etc., some of the property was sold to his son, so that, the government couldn't go back and take everything.
Right.
So he protected himself, some of his father's properties, by putting it in his name, but it's his dad's property. All he did is protect it and cover it somewhere else, so that it was going to be, the government couldn't, no matter what happened, couldn't get their hands on it.
Right. And the thing is, there are other churches that aren't as public that do the same kind of shady deals. And so there's enough of them that if the government was to go after Hovind, then they would also have to go after these other ones, or else look like they're playing not favorites but anti-favorites, whatever you want to call that, like they're picking on him. And so it's a big problem for the government, because then there's also people like the Fox News people who, if he did go after Kent Hovind and then come after Reverend Johnson or something like that, they would say that the government's got a vendetta against religion. So it's a sticky bailiwick.
Yep.
As they say.
I think that it should be up to the religion to prove that it's doing actual charitable work that's helping people.
Right.
And that's where and if they can't, then they would lose their status as a charity.
Right. But the thing is, that supposedly is why we have the Fourth Estate. It's why we have the journalism. If journalists would go after these things, then the government would be able to step in, because people would get irate about it. But they don't, because they need, I don't even know why. I used to work for a local newspaper in my community, and they were in the back pocket of what's called the TOR. It's a Franciscan monastery, and they run a they run a college in the town, and that's where all the money in the town comes from. So because the TOR runs the college, and the college is responsible for keeping all the businesses in business, the businesses like would pressure the paper to not go after the TOR, and so basically it got to the point where if the head of the TOR took a dump, it was front page news. Because they could call the paper and say, we're having a candlelight vigil tonight, and the paper would, like, boom, send a photographer, and I had to go cover these stupid candlelight vigils that were not news, they were not news, but they forced. So it was. But that's how it works. That's how it's all an ugly circle, and nobody does anything because they're watching their own back.
Yeah, but yeah. I think all this started back in the days where, when there were kings leading countries, because the kings and queens got their title and were thanks to the church. The church were the ones who would crown them and give their claims legitimacy. So it was a legitimate king because the church said so. In exchange for that, the king said, you can keep all your money. I'm not taxing you. I'm going to tax everybody else, but I'm not going to tax you. And that's when the churches started getting privileges, and it's just been passed on and on and on, just because it's always been like that.
Tradition. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap up today. I want to thank you again for helping us out here last minute, ATV. We didn't have a guest, and he stepped right in, and that was great of him. I'm going to wrap it up then. That's all for today. Please make sure that you subscribe to the Atheism TV channel. There you can watch the Infidel News for the Damned, where our talented team of writers and anchors present these and other stories not normally covered in the media. In the coming week, the Infidel will rerun today's stories and many more fascinating ones. You'll find Atheism TV at youtube.com/atheismtv. The Infidel Podcast of the Damned is a Nicole SD production. Nicole and I would like to recognize and say thank you to Truth Surge, who did the voiceover used in our intro and gave us permission to use music from his song Lied To as our opening theme. We'd also like to thank ATV for participating in today's podcast. Nicole's channel is Nicole SD and can be found at youtube.com/NICOLSD. I'm Gamut Man on YouTube, at Gamut Man on Twitter, and my blog and information on my books, including my nonfiction title, Believe It, You Know, an Atheist, as well as my mystery novels featuring the atheist detective Lupa Schwartz, can be accessed at tinyurl.com/lupalanding. While there, you can sign up to receive my newsletter. Signing up also entitles you to choose one free ebook title from my collection of 99-cent novellas. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.